Hey everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Kim Young here with Mary Patnode. Zach Kitzman is off today, but we have his childhood buddy and co-worker Jeremy filling in for him today. So welcome to the podcast, Jeremy.
Yay.
Thank you.
Woo. So on our last podcast, we had talked about what it was like to go to school here in Princeton and the influence that our teachers and coaches had on our lives. And today we are going to continue that talk, but we are going to change it up a little bit and talk about how it was growing up in Princeton and how times have changed and what fun things you can do now here.
Yeah, so I think that I was kind of telling Jeremy earlier that I think we have some similar childhood, even though we're 10 years apart. As kids, we spent a ton of time at Mark Park. For me, it was watching Dad play baseball or softball. I mean, we spent hours and hours and hours of our summer up there. And I remember the Lion drinking fountain.
Yes.
Was that there when you were?
I think it was. I
growing up?
remember that.
Do you remember Mark Park the way it used to be set up, where there was only 2 ball fields?
No.
So you wouldn't remember then, unless they moved that.
No, I think that's when they took it out, is when they added the ball field.
I feel like I remember seeing it.
Yeah, the tiger drinking fountain.
Yeah.
So
the lion.
The Lion, yeah. The field right now that is closest to Splash Park
Okay.
was basically the playground. Mm-hmm. And so it was the playground where it was like everything was made of metal. So if it was sunny out that day,
It was like 1,000,000 degrees.
oh, you're
getting
sliding
burned.
down a
You're definitely getting burned.
Yes.
And also, it was that wicked, merry-go-round that was also made of metal. And I just saw a video about it, about how kids in the 80s, that's why they're so strong, because you would just it would get it spinning, and then you would just take turns jumping, and you would just fly. Your legs are flying behind it, and then you get whipped off it and get on it again. Or you'd be puking.
Uh-huh. Oh my gosh, we were so dirty. We got so dirty. I mean, we played so hard at that playground. Or I did. I remember that anyway.
Yeah. We just spent the entire day there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was tournaments on the weekends. And so Dad played for Pizza Barn. There's a lot of people out there that I could give shout-outs for Pizza Barn. Yes. Yeah.
That must have been in the later days.
Yes, it was, because he played with the Perbix boys.
Did he play with RW? Did he ever play RW?
I don't remember what team he played on before Pizza Barn. But yeah, that was lots of fun memories. They had 2 ball fields at Mark Park, and then there was always a food truck, mini donuts, snow cones.
There was, the JCs had a
little concession.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Up there. And then women's, I think, you had mentioned before too, women's softball was huge too.
Yes.
I mean, softball was just huge in Princeton. And we hosted a lot of tournaments here, and the Rum River Festival was a huge weekend for softball tournaments. I think, because we've actually talked about starting that up for the Rum River Festival, but I believe Cambridge now has a really big tournament that weekend. So
yeah, they have a women's and a men's league, I believe.
Yeah, so it would be hard to get it going again here with that happening. But
yeah, I remember watching you play, Kim, for Frank's Pharmacy.
Yep, I played for Frank's Pharmacy for a number of years. I think I played for the Pizza Barn. And I feel like I played a year or 2 with Fran's Beauties. So my grandma had a beauty shop in her home for many years, and she loved, in fact, I was just talking to her about this, she loved the game of softball. And so she always sponsored a women's team.
Yep, Fran's Beauties. I remember watching Sheila, and I think Cheryl maybe played, but for sure Sheila played. I remember watching.
So that's how I spent, a lot of my summers. And then, for one, sports weren't really a year-round thing. They were just, when they were done, they're done. In the summer, you just played outside. At least that's how it was when I was growing up. We would just swing. And we lived, 3 miles out?
3.5, 4 miles.
That was way far out of town, because I rarely biked into town. I don't think Mom and Dad probably let us.
I biked into town all the time.
Well, yeah, probably because you were the youngest.
Yeah.
You get to do whatever you want.
I think I biked to town once a week. Jody and I would bike to town to Ben Franklin to buy candy.
Yep.
And then bike back. And then we'd, screw around a little bit, bike all over town, go visit Grandma, go bug Dad at the bank. And then,
Yeah, I feel like that's
don't-
another place I grew up was Princeton Bank. Mm-hmm. We were in the bank all the time.
yeah, my notes here about growing up were riding to town on my bike all the time. My first job was Freichel's Super Value, and then I worked at Ben Franklin. I miss Ben
Were
Franklin.
those around, Ben Franklin and Frankel's?
No, I do remember the drugstore that was in the strip here.
It was in here.
This was it?
Well, this was Capsner.
Yeah, this was Capsner Drug.
You
And then-
remember Frank's
I
Pharmacy.
bet you remember Frank Pharmacy, which was on Rum River Drive.
Yeah.
And you probably remember it as Thrifty White.
Yes.
Yep. So before that, it was Frank's Pharmacy, and this was also a pharmacy. And next door was the sort of the gifts and card shop.
Was there a dollar store like next to it too?
Ben Franklin.
Is that what it was?
You mean over by Thrifty White?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Franklin.
Is that what it was?
What was it after Ben Franklin before Crystal bought it?
I thought it was Crystal.
Anyone out there listening, put in the comments
If there was anything between Ben Franklin and Crystal. Because do you remember Ben Franklin being in there?
I think so. I remember being in. It had like the classic white like tile looking floor, the cheap store. I remember. I don't know why I remember that so well, but
Yeah.
then like it was just like
They had
dollar store
Sorry,
items.
they had everything there.
everything.
They had fish in the back. You could buy goldfish.
Hamsters,
You could buy
gerbils.
hamsters. You could buy fabric. You could buy clothes, candy. I remember the little jewelry, like you could buy your birthstone, and the ring would adjust. You could bend the band.
Yes.
And they come in a little box, like they're.
They always had music playing, and every time I hear the song "Here Comes the Sun," it takes me right back to Ben Franklin because they had one of those CD players that they were trying to sell different CDs, so then they would play sample songs like
Yep.
all day long, and that one for some reason sticks out to me.
And as a kid, I remember because our mom, she always made our clothes when we were young, before we got into high school.
And before me,
She didn't make your clothes?
no,
Oh my gosh. She made all of our clothes.
yeah, I know. I've looked at pictures.
And
You guys looked like Laura and Mary Ingalls.
we did for our first communion. We had bonnets and everything. But
My clothes came from a store.
I didn't. And I remember at Ben Franklin, Mom would go buy fabric. And like they have it at Joanne Fabric too now, where there's the slit down the middle of the table.
Yes.
And I remember the sound of the cutting of the fabric. I loved that sound when she would go get fabric.
Oh my gosh. I have to give a shout out to Jesse Donner because Jesse Donner, Tom McBroom, there was a bunch of us who worked there. And
Worked where?
Ben Franklin.
You worked there?
Yeah. Yeah, my first job was Freichel's and then I worked at Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin was my first job.
It was so much fun. We had so much fun, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but sorry, Jesse, I'm gonna throw you out there. But we would go and make like scarves, and we'd go back to the fabric, and we would make things.
What?
Yeah. Jesse, if you're listening, you got to
Did the Spandies own it?
You got to back me up here.
At the time?
Koskies.
Oh, Koskies owned it. I was
Yeah.
going to say, because if it was Spandies, they would have known.
Yeah. No, sorry, Don.
Yep. They
Fire up.
Yep. Fire.
Well, I have one other story about Don since we're talking about Ben Franklin and animals. I had been begging my mom and dad for a hamster. Begging. Please just let's get a hamster. Please, please, please. I'll take care of it, of course. So finally they broke and they're like, okay, let's go get a hamster. So we walk in and Don was helping us. And they had a cage of females and they had a cage of males. And so my dad said, we can get a male. That's fine, And so Don's like, okay, they're here. Pick one out. So I picked one out. And I picked one out that it was just big and fat and it had a really big bottom. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna name it Kirby after Kirby Puckett. So super excited. Bring the hamster home. Spent the whole day with the hamster. And the next morning, I woke up and it was like the hamster was having a seizure. I didn't know what was happening. It was just crazy. So I called my mom where she worked at the hospital. She worked in, I think she was working surgery at this time. And I called and I had her paged. And she always says, if you ever have me paged at that hospital, somebody better be dying or close to it. So I called, I just called the hospital and I was like, can you please page Stephanie Scarlett? And anyway, she comes home, my dad comes home. And by the time my dad got home, my male hamster named Kirby had 9 babies. So we got 10 for the price of 1. So it's always a deal at Ben Franklin.
Did he eat any? Or she?
No, because then Dad, of course, goes back there and he's like, Don,
Yeah.
you know that mail that you sold us? And, Don's like, what a deal. No, we ended up donating him to Chuck Johnson. He was a 4th grade teacher at the time. Do you remember Mr. Johnson?
No.
Big, tall Mr. Johnson. He was a trainer, just an icon for Princeton. But he had rats and hamsters and fish and snakes, and he had all the animals in his room.
Big varmint guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're like, here's 9 healthy hamsters. So that's my Ben Franklin stories. I probably have more, but I won't say them on air.
What did you do when you rode your bike around town? Because you said you grew up on the north end?
No,
you had
I had friends
on the north
that
end.
lived up there, and we just biked around and went to the gas station, got candy, pop, and just
Casey's.
Yeah, the North End Casey's, and we would always look for like jumps and stuff. I remember doing that, just trying to get hurt. So
Doing anything dangerous that you can find?
anything dangerous. Yeah. There used to be, I don't know if it's still there, but outside of North Elementary is a perfect jump into the grass. Like there's a giant tree out front, and right at the base of it, you can.
Right in the front of the building?
Yeah.
Like right on, okay.
And that's where a lot of the.
Wonder if it's
shenanigans
still
take
there.
place. I hope so. I hope kids still ride their bike around.
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
I haven't really seen any.
I don't see much for bikes.
Not like it used to be.
No.
It's a bummer.
I know.
Right on the edge, I feel like, of Call of Duty coming out. And,
Right.
Yes.
Still playing outside.
Uh-huh.
I was right on that weird edge.
Yep.
I mean, kids don't even have to go to each other's houses anymore.
No.
They put their headsets on, they're talking through their TVs, and it's like they're all together.
Well, that kind of reminded me when you said you paged Mom. I mean, we didn't have any other way to get a hold of our parents.
No.
I mean, do you remember Dad's number at the bank?
2020
No, but his.
6114.
Yep. I just told somebody.
I also remember the number to the Legion, 1212.
Oh, yeah, because you would call Mom and Dad there, too.
Yeah. Hospital was 1313.
Yep.
And Hoffman Oil was 1311. And sometimes I would accidentally call Hoffman Oil.
Then you meant to call the
And
hospital.
Yes, and Cheryl Hoffman would answer and
Uh-huh.
say, Mary, it's not the hospital.
Yeah.
I worked at O'Reilly's in town for a while.
Oh, did
and
you?
Their phone number was 3800 or 3900, and Domino's is the other one.
3800.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
So people would call, hey, you got any chicken wings? And I'm like, no, we got brake calipers and pads. And
Exactly. Uh-huh.
So you worked at O'Reilly's. Anywhere else?
in town.
Yeah.
At Tiger Club. I worked there in high
that's
school.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was,
Shout
Fun.
out to Gail Harshman.
yeah, she was the best.
Yeah.
She was the Tiger Club icon for
Yeah.
sure.
Definitely. And now she's doing everything at Twice New
Yep.
Clothing.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. She's doing a lot there now, too.
A lot of volunteering in the community. And
I should go say hi.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Shoot.
Shout out to Gail.
Gail, it's Jeremy that's saying hi to you. You're one of your workers.
She'll remember you.
Yeah. I think Jeremy was telling me a story a couple months ago about Tiger Club and how he loved it, but it made him
Not
not
have
want
children.
to have kids
Yeah.
for a little while.
Yeah, no, that, I mean, it's fine. It just, there's so many kids when I grew up, because my mom ran a daycare too. She still does.
Oh.
So it was
still.
it's constant, in my life where it's just, there's a kid around.
Yeah.
So, I have a weird perspective where it's like, all right.
She
Yes.
runs a daycare out of your house?
Yeah.
Oh, so that was a huge part of your growing up.
Yeah. I remember the transition. She used to work at a company called Opus, so she had an office job. But then she's like, well, I'm going to work from home and do
Yeah.
daycare. So I remember the first batch of kids. It was funny because there was like 2 good ones, and then the rest of them just screamed the entire time. So
Yep. Because they were left without their parents and separation anxiety.
serious separation anxiety.
You know, we had, speaking of daycares, I feel like Red Balloon was maybe the first center that came here, but it was almost all in-home daycares.
Yep.
And you just knew.
Now I think we have 3, right?
Yeah. We Grow With Us, Red Balloon, is it still called Red Balloon?
Or Red Wagon?
Red Wagon, maybe.
I'm not sure. Sorry.
And then, oh my gosh, Bright Child.
Bright Child, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, so we have 3 centers now. But yeah, in-home daycares were, that was just the thing.
Well, and you mentioned Freckles because that's where Bright Child is
Yes.
now. I remember that we could go in there and we'd charge our groceries.
Yes.
And we'd just be like, put this on Art Scarlet's bill. And they'd be like, okay. And that's what we would do.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
sorry about that, Dad. I carried that all the way through my college years. My roommates on my floor at Mankato, my Elroy, they're like, oh, Mary's coming home. It's Sunday night. She went home this weekend. And they knew that I would bring home just a ton of groceries for everybody. And yeah, that would be my final stop out of town before I went back to college.
Yep, charging groceries.
Yep. Tons of groceries.
And another thing that I did in summers growing up was I was in the marching band. And that was so much fun. Ron Moulton was the director, and it was very serious. We had to be, I don't remember what would happen if we were late to practice, but I remember there were serious consequences because I remember being terrified. And I remember one time my grandpa was bringing me to marching band practice, and he was driving, I swear he was driving like 3 miles an hour. And
Grandpa
it was
Roy?
like, Grandpa Bud. And we were just like not going to make it. And I'm like, Grandpa, but we must have made it on time unless I blacked out my punishment. But I remember we would have to, I remember coming to town and hearing the marching band as a kid practicing in the summer.
Oh,
It was the
yes.
best.
We would hear them like way out by our house.
Yeah, I
with
mean, you
drums.
could just hear them marching around town and practicing. And we would have some summers most summers we would practice sometimes in sweatshirts and sweatpants and put on lots of layers to just kind of get used to because we'd have to wear these heavy, heavy uniforms.
Yeah. I mean, there was well over 100.
I'm sure.
Marching
Yeah.
band was absolutely huge.
It was huge. When I was in marching band, we went to Chicago. We went to Canada and did a show there. There was a tornado while we were there. And then we got to represent the state of Minnesota at the inaugural parade in Washington. One year, it was Ronald Reagan's inauguration, and the vice president was...
Nixon? I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, you are old.
No!
Ronald Reagan.
Who would it be? I'm embarrassed because I can't think of who, because then he became president.
I don't know. I just had to throw that out there. Bush.
Bush, yes. Senior.
Yes.
He was the vice president, and it was one of the only times that the inaugural parade got canceled because it was so cold. And so then they took all the marching bands and brought them into this huge, event center or whatever, and then they came and spoke to us. Ronald Reagan and Vice President George Bush. So that was kind of cool.
There's probably no marching band when you went through school.
No way.
I think there probably was.
Really?
But I don't remember.
There was pep band
That might have
that
been.
would play at football games. And
Yeah.
stuff.
So maybe there wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like after Ron left, it did go on for, I think, a couple more years,
Yeah.
but then that was it. I don't know.
Jim, if you're listening, let's go.
Yeah, let's go, Jim.
Come on. Get
Yeah.
back. Princeton needs a band.
Yep.
But if we're talking about how things have changed, the reason that we don't have a band is because kids are just so involved in so many different
Yeah.
things. And it's like Kim was mentioning before, when I was playing sports in high school, the Minnesota State High School League had a rule where there was no contact all summer. So the only thing that we could do sports related in the summer, we did get to play softball through I don't know, I think only in June. But we could just go to the weight room. That was it. You could have no contact with your head coach at all. So there was no workouts in the summer. And
And there was no, you did not play, say, volleyball year round.
No.
It wasn't even an option.
no.
You'd maybe I remember going to some summer basketball camps, and that was it. They were kind of like 3-on-3 leagues, maybe.
Yeah.
But you just didn't do that. I mean, it was just like you played a sport in the spring,
Yep.
winter and fall, and that was it.
Yeah, you had your summers to work or just to have fun and
Or
with your
marching band.
friends and
I
marching
think
band.
that was part of it too, that if you were in marching band, you couldn't work. It was really, really intense and involved. There was practice every day. Every weekend there were parades. And so you really couldn't have a job.
So you would travel to other cities to do their parades?
Yep. We would go to parades, and then we also did field shows. Those were the
summer.
best time all summer. The field shows are really fun. So we go to competitions, and where you see like the colleges where they do the formations on the field.
Yeah.
And all. Yeah, we did that.
So it was like Drumline, like the movie?
Yeah, I was in the drum line. That's what I did.
So you got like serious face and you're
Yeah.
on somebody else's drum. You
Oh, yeah.
throw the sticks at 'em.
Yeah, there wasn't technology back in those days. Show them some videos.
Yeah, no videos. Only photos. In marching band I started out with the bass drum, and then I ended up on the snare on the drum line.
Did you guys like flip your sticks and stuff?
Yep,
Like,
and we would play on, like you said, other people's drums, and
That's really cool.
I'm much cooler than you thought. I mean,
I thought you were cool already, but
But
now
now I'm
you were
elevated.
here. Now
Now
you're
I'm-
here.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
for sure.
let's talk about, just because we all were so different in ages, let's talk about like middle school and we'll start with Kim. Like, what did you do for fun in middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade? What did you do on Friday nights or Saturday nights or in Princeton?
I really don't remember. I just remember, getting together for birthday parties and stuff. That's really, I went to school at what's now the fitness center. That's where I went to junior high. It wasn't
Same.
middle school. It was junior high. So we were there for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
Oh, that's right. I was 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, because it was junior high, and then it got switched to middle school,
Yep.
which was 6, 7, 8, and then you'd go to the high school in 9th grade. So when I went to the high school in 10th grade, my sister, who's a year younger than me, Cindy, her grade came with us. So we were never like the freshmen in the high school because they moved to grade. That was the year they started the whole middle school thing. And they kind of switched everybody to... That must have been when... Was the middle school built then? I don't really know.
No, I didn't even go to the middle school.
Oh, you went to junior high too?
No, middle school, but it was at the fitness center.
It was at the fitness center, but it was middle school. Yeah, for me it was junior high.
Yep. Yep. So this just reminded me when you were talking about Ron Moulton. We spent Fridays and Saturdays at the roller rink.
Yeah, we did that a little bit, not much though.
Oh, we were there all the time. I mean, that's where everybody went on Fridays and Saturdays, and it was just roller skating. I don't think rollerblades were even a thing or invented at that time, but that's where we...
You must have gone there.
Thunderblades?
Oh yeah. That
Because
was
when we did our video, you guys were like whipping around, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, no.
yeah. Yeah. A lot of that was for nefarious purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
It was always girls at Thunderblade. So
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you rollerblade backward with a girl? Like,
No,
You go
I could
backward?
never go backwards. I don't know. My brain just won't let me.
So you just had to go around holding hands?
I never did.
you
No.
tried? Did you try?
No.
No?
No, I was too nervous all the time.
What else did you do in middle school? Just for fun in town.
I didn't really hang out in town. I
don't remember middle school either.
Because middle school, that if we weren't biking or doing any of that, we were playing video games. That was really it. We really didn't do a whole lot.
I specifically remember asking my dad for an Atari. And this was like the Pong.
Yeah.
Bing, bing. That was the video game. And he was like, absolutely not. This is not going anywhere. In like a year, this will be a fad. You were wrong, Dad.
Joke's on you.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my gosh, it went from Atari to Sega to Nintendo.
I wanted an Atari. You probably got one, Mary.
I got a Nintendo.
Of course.
I also got it taken away a lot, and they hid it in the dumbest spot. I'd always find it and play it during the day, and then I'd put it back in the hiding spot when they got home from work.
So I think I want to talk about too, sort of to wrap it up, is kind of how things have changed, and there's so much to do. I mean, I think about in high school, before games, like if we had a home game, we would go to Frontier Steakhouse every time before our game. because what else are we going to do? There was nothing else. There was not a McDonald's. There was not a Quick Trip. There was not a Caribou. First of all, we didn't drink coffee when we were in high school.
Right.
And so that's what we did. We went over to the Frontier Steakhouse, hung out there, and then we went back for our game.
Weird.
Because there was nothing else. Like,
Kadar.
well, yeah, but that was way on the other end of town.
Well, I suppose. Yeah, now there's Pizza Hut.
Yeah, I mean, none of that was there when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think about all the additions of, and oftentimes I live, kind of when I come into town, I'm coming off the frontage road by Coburn's. So oftentimes I'll drive into town and try to picture it like as an outsider. And what does this town look like when you're coming in on that exit, from 169? And now it's like the big signs you can see, there's Subway and gas stations, there's a brewery, there's a hotel, the McDonald's. I mean, it's like, yeah, I can get off here. I think about when we're going on a road trip with our family, we're always looking for, that exit where I can go and maybe pick up a few groceries, get some gas, get some food. I mean, it's just all right there. And then as you travel down Rum River Drive, I feel like that's sort of our old town as you get kind of toward this part of town.
Yeah.
Which I think is also really cool.
Hanson Power and Lighting is your complete service electrical contractor, servicing residential and commercial for service calls, remodels, and new construction in your community. Now offering backup generator setups, electrical vehicle chargers, service upgrades, and underground feeders to outbuilding and pole sheds. Have an electrical project that needs a professional to handle it? Then let the experts take care of it for you. That's Hanson Power and Lighting. Give them a call, 612-369-5991.
So I was going to mention about Zimmerman. Like, that really wasn't even there's just a few little things in Zimmerman when I was in. They didn't have high school.
Nope.
They either went to Princeton or to Elk River. Like, there might have been an elementary. Might have been. It was super small. And also, Otsego was not. Otsego, there was nothing there. Rogers was nothing. There was no Rogers High School. Like, so from here all the way to 94 was basically Elk River.
Right.
That's it. And now...
And there was a Target in Elk River, wasn't there?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then they moved that to Otsego.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there really was not.
I'm trying to remember where that was located. But yeah, there was just... to think about how much Princeton has grown in that amount of time.
That's crazy.
It is. It's really... And then there's new businesses started up. We've just... And I had someone stop in the other day who was doing a kind of like a directory for businesses from this area, and he said, I haven't been in for a couple years, and who do you have new? And there was a lot, because Heavenly Fresh is new, and then we've got a couple new Mexican restaurants. We've got Get Dressed is new, and all the stores in the mall. I mean, it just keeps growing, and it's fun there's a lot of anniversaries this year. Second Ship was their first anniversary. Pizza Pub, their 5th. Pizza Barn, their 40th. I just got a message from Neighbors on the Rum, 10 years. So they're doing well, and I'm glad.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, now you can shop for clothes in town. You really, really can get everything you need. Right. I mean, between Walmart, Marv's True Value, Coburn's.
Yeah.
And then all of the little boutiques and tons of places to eat. Everything's here.
Everything's here.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was something I thought a lot about in high school, was like, wow, this place has not much.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was always like, my plan was to get out of town. But now, the longer, I've been here, it's like, well, okay, you
Right,
really
so
don't have to go anywhere.
No.
Like,
So Jeremy graduated, and you said 2014?
in 2014.
So 9 years ago. So even in that time.
In that time, it's crazy.
Yes.
Like, it's become, like, fun
Yeah.
to like, be here.
Yep.
And my kids, being a mom of kids that are in high school, I mean, they go hang out, at the Pizza Pub after games. And I know that when you and I were both in high school, we would go to, our hangout was Pizza Barn. Like, we would go to Pizza Barn before football games, and we'd go to football game, and everybody would go to Pizza Barn after.
Yep.
Whether you ordered food or not, that was just the hangout. Like, you'd always get a pop or maybe some breadsticks, but that is where...
That was a high school hangout.
It was a high school hangout, yeah. So if you're like on a Friday night or a Saturday night, if you're just cruising through town looking for something to do, you would just pop into the Pizza Barn.
Yep.
To see who was there.
And people would be hanging out in the parking lot until they kind of did away with that.
Yeah. But now I feel like, my kids, they meet at the Pizza Pub a lot after games, but their hangout is like Quick Trip.
Right.
So funny.
What?
They just kind of hang out in the parking lot there.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
now you have these apps, these Life 360 apps where you can follow your kids and you can see where they are. And I swear when it was Jake, when he was still in high school, he was either on the golf course or at Quick Trip. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Dominic now. That's just, they like hang out in that side parking lot.
Yeah, right next to the high school.
Yeah, because they can go in and get, if they want ice cream, if they want a pop.
Yeah, it's all
Food.
there. Food, and the food is good.
Yeah.
It is,
It's
yeah.
not gas station food.
No.
It's,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
it's
So
a
they
higher
just-
tier.
It is.
It's everything you want there. There's a bathroom there. I mean,
Yep.
and then they just hang out in the side parking lot. And
Yeah, they're right by the high school.
hours.
Yeah.
Not just like, let's hang out here for 20 minutes and decide what we're going to do. No, they just sit in their vehicles and
Yeah, so
hang out.
things have changed, but they're also the same. I think that's what Jeremy and I were talking before we came on the podcast about how, your parents always know. You tell your kids that too. We're going to find out.
yep.
And we always do. And that is one thing that I love about a small town, because maybe not so much as a kid, but as an adult, I mean, it's still a small town, yet we have all the amenities here. And it's a great place to raise your family. It's a great place to live and work and
Yeah.
play, just like we say for This is Princeton.
It was back then and it is now.
Yep.
I mean, it's just evolving and growing and
Yep.
I think we're keeping up with the changes and I mean, obviously with every city there's changes that need to happen but I feel like they're constantly working on that,
Yep.
bringing things into town and really trying to get people to move here and raise their kids here and our school district is awesome and
Yep.
things are really pushing along for Princeton, I feel like.
Yep.
So
Exactly. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us today for the Princeton podcast, and we will see you next time. Until then, this is Kim, Mary, and Jeremy signing off. This is Princeton. Stay here, play here.
go Tigers.